Spectrovision Radio.
What if you could temporarily return to source? What if you could meet God? If you could travel to the edge of our time space reality and peek across the threshold and then come back into your human earth life body and tell about it, how would that change you? How would you be able to adjust to this mundane human life after experiencing and seeing that God, source, the edge of reality, what this is all about, the entire purpose of what seems to be a holographic universe in the mind of God? Well, that's exactly what Robert Monroe did and the exact conundrum he had upon returning. And we're going to talk about it today. This is the conclusion of my Robert Monroe book report series, which has been quite wild, my friends. We have gone to the future. In the last few episodes, we went to the future around 3300 and talked to future humans that are now residing in a primarily out of body state. We went to the gathering, which is an accumulation of extraterrestrial, time traveling, and interdimensional beings and craft that are surrounding Earth at this moment, waiting for the big event to happen. We talked to an alien on board a saucer who is here collecting our humor, Loosh, and found out one of the things that makes humans so incredible in the cosmos is our humor, our sense of humor, and our ability to make light of dark times. Evidently, that is a very rare natural resource in the cosmos. We also went to the afterlife, discovered the virtual reality aspects and nature of the afterlife realm and the spirit realm. We have had some pretty amazing experiences, to say the least. And now we're going to wrap it all up because in the last video, we talked about Robert Monroe's travel along the interstate, this epic journey he's about to go on, which is going to take him to finding the next home for human consciousness, that humans are going to click out of Earth, essentially graduate from this Earth life experience and need a new home, a new simulator to go to, a new avatar to be in, to grow and to evolve and to learn from. And he was about to set out on that journey. That's what last video was about, the preparation for that. And his guides were preparing him by telling him all about the non-human intelligences that he might encounter on this journey and about what he's looking for out there in what's called this interstate, this travel along the interstate, this road that leaves the Earth life simulator and goes out into the intervening dimensions. And what Robert does next surprises himself, his guides, and basically every single person, all the watchers and the managers of this system, and everyone who's a part of this entire reality here did not expect him to do what he did. He broke the link between his consciousness and his body, that silver cord that tethers us to this reality. He broke that and he kept going. He went past all the physical planets, all the physical realities, to the edge of time space, to the point where he could see what's called the aperture and the emitter. The emitter being the holographic projection beam that creates this entire universe, this entire reality, every aspect of it. It is the laser beam of God. And then the return flow, which is the aperture, the black hole to the white hole, the return where we go back. But he's not allowed in, and he's told exactly why. And we're going to get into that because what he's told, the reason he can't enter the emitter, he cannot return to source yet, actually is the entire purpose of life. So let's get into it, my friends. Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Conscious Observers. We are going to conclude the Robert Monroe book report series today with chapter 15 from Ultimate Journey. Now, when I started reading these chapters, I didn't really intend to keep going, but I had so many messages from people saying that this was very enlightening, very entertaining, and was resonating at such a deep soul level. They wanted me to keep going. I made the mistake of just starting as a 3-book trilogy, and I just kind of picked one when I first started this. It was after I did my CIA Gateway assessment report, and I was like, okay, well, let's grab a chapter out of Robert Monroe's books, and I'll throw one of those out there. And I did, not really knowing if anyone would resonate with it, and people freaking loved it. So I actually started there and went on, and I bypassed the entire first book and most of the second book and kind of started in the middle. At a certain point in the future, I'll probably circle back around and start at the very beginning with Journeys Out of the Body. That would be the right thing to do. But for now, after this, I'm going to move on to some other topics. So this will be the conclusion for right now on the Robert Monroe Book Reports. And this is chapter 15, Long Trail a Winding. This is a longer chapter, so I'm not going to interject as much. I will when I feel like it's necessary to offer clarity, but I'm just going to read. Okay. So y'all sit back and enjoy. This is an amazing, one of the most amazing chapters of any book ever written. Okay. So let's go. The most bemusing aspect when mapping out the route of the interstate has been the vast number of areas that I had left unexplored. Evidently, when I had enough information for a specific purpose, I had ignored or glossed over any additional data. This, however, did have some advantages. If I had been aware of the potentials, I might have given way to caution and called off any further exploration. I like to think of myself as adventurous, but not foolhardy in my curiosity seeking. But now it was far more than curiosity. With a purpose, a true emerging basic, and with all apparent influences in their respective proportions, I was ready for a full scale approach to what earlier I had taken so casually. One line ended and another was about to begin. Here, allowing for the usual problems of translation, is what happened. 3 a.m., November 27th, 1987. It is easy to start, lying down, focused attention, resist the tendency to speed up the process. Keep it slow. Don't miss anything this time. Relax. Breathe evenly. Now, the beginning of differential phasing. The fading of physical input as phase separation deepens and non-physical sensory mechanisms begin to take over. Wonder why there was ever fear. This is much the same as going to sleep, but without loss of consciousness. Moving, moving. And now above the earth, high enough to see the curvature, and higher. A huge globe, much as the astronauts saw it. Beautiful, filled with so much action. The memories flood in, gently close them down, except for one. Yes, as a son of sons, you go with me. The essence that helped me be what I am, always with me, joyfully. Obviously, he's leaving his body. This is what he does repeatedly over and over throughout all these books. This is him just describing the process of leaving his body, leaving the earth realm. Shift the phasing more. Only blackness, deep blackness. Blackness with texture. A slight shift more, and there they are. Millions of tiny flashes of light moving in rite of passage in two directions, flowing inward toward and outward from where I have just emerged. Each a human mind consciousness in transit, inward for a fresh start of a new experience in physical life, outward to a predetermined sanctuary or a belief-driven illusion. He's seeing, it's so crazy, but he's leaving, going through all the different rings of reality, and this one here is where souls are incarnating and essentially dying. So the inflow and the outflow of souls from the spirit world, going in for another incarnation and leaving a current incarnation. So he's seeing those as just these millions of tiny flashes of light moving in two directions. Slowly changing phase. Deep sadness for those whose flight slows to a halt in bewilderment and confusion. The brighter lights of those who enter from outside, the retrievers, the helpers who calm the distraction of death panic. You know about this when you've been both screamer and consoler. So he's even able to see the little lights going from Earth up to the spirit world, and then them getting stuck and freaking out, and seeing the retriever lights, which are the other parts of the higher self or your soul cluster that are sent in to sort of retrieve stuck or lost or scared souls that sort of get confused and lost on their passage from Earth to the spirit world. So he's just watching all this as he's going through, kind of like you're in an airplane taking off and you can see birds and clouds and different things. He's flying out of this dimension and kind of just seeing all these things in his peripheral as he does. But now he understands what all these things are. Before they were just lights and flashes and streaks and everything, but now he knows exactly what they are because he's been in there. Then the belief system territories, with their exit ramps leading off the interstate. Move by them slowly, one after the other, too dim to see what lies beyond. Next, the more familiar, more discernible, leading to the great religions, accessible for those who need them. Much inflow of light into these and a sprinkle of outflow back to the Earth life system. That's funny. He talks about the belief system territory as these like these places that you get stuck, right? It's where you go after you die if you have really strict belief systems and you just really believe you're going to go to a particular place in the afterlife. You go to these places. So it's funny that he says that much inflow of light into these and a sprinkle of outflow back to the earth life system. So not way more people get stuck in those than sort of seem to escape those. Something to watch out for. Open the phase shift more slowly. Yes, the last timer ring. There it is. Do I stop? Nope. Pass it by. Move on out. Further, further. Clusters of light, human energy lights. A multidimensional carpet of them. Endless. I there clusters. How did I miss them before? Now I understand the inflow and outflow. Mine is there, but I must stay on track. The outflow of helpers finding lost parts of their cluster, the inflow bringing them back, and that other steady outflow, thousands and thousands, the insertions of groups of personality units into single fresh humans in the Earth life system. Open the phase shift slowly, steadily, distinct separation. Nothing but M field. I know this point so well. It's the meeting place with my inspec, with myself. So many times I learned so much. No more now, just blackness. Move on, on. A figure approaches, human shaped. Greets me with a wave, fades out as I shift my phasing slightly. Now I am past human thought influence. I have been here before, but never like this. It was lonely then, but not lonely now. Sudden pressure all around me, encasing me. Relax, don't struggle, don't resist, no fear, wonder. Feeling of soft, gentle energy penetrating every part of me. Inquisitive, asking intelligent. Let me ask, who? Energy ceases its movement. Use nonverbal. Make a mental line outward, flexible. Some of this is sort of his thoughts. He's noting things. You can see it in the text. It doesn't always come across clearly as I'm reading. It's kind of broken words and broken sentences. These are just his thoughts as he's going, as he's exiting the earth realm. The line straightens, becomes taut. There is a picture. Twin suns. A planet orbiting. Glowing sparks moving in and out of the planet. One travels down the line to here. The pressure holding me shuts off. Another picture of two arms extended in welcome. Send question. Trying to read the response. The response is restless and bored? I learned all there was to learn on the planet and began to explore outward. I have a physical form on my home planet, like a fish. No, more like a dolphin. A dolphin. A flash of warm friendliness and then nothing. He read my love of dolphins, and like attracts like. But where was he from? He rotates phase, shifts slowly, ought to be coming to KT 95 soon, but not to stop. My first childhood, a sudden bright light, blue, and a voice in my head. Okay, real quick. As he's leaving the Earth life realm and he's going outward, he goes across a twin sun planet. So there's a planet orbiting that has twin suns around it. And there's he comes across a consciousness there. And that consciousness basically says to him, I'm restless and bored. I learned all there was to learn on the planet and began to explore outward. I have a physical form on my home planet, like a fish. No, more like a dolphin. So he's reading this guy's consciousness essentially and finding out that this consciousness is connected to like a dolphin type animal on this planet. We get the impression later on that he's going through his past lives, which is really interesting because this is just a blip because he's hauling ass. He's getting out of here. He's on a mission, but he's going back in time because KT95 is where his consciousness first had physical form, and that's where he's headed now. So you get the impression that that dolphin planet and that consciousness are earlier versions of him, and that before he came to this human Earth life experience, he was on some other planet, and his consciousness was in like a fish, a dolphin type. So just really interesting. Rotate phase, shift slowly. Ought to be coming to KT95 soon. Okay, then he talks about a sudden bright blue light and a voice. Turn back. Is this a command or a warning? It is both. Turn back. Return. I can't read it, but if it reads me, I must be able to. No, it doesn't have a mind. Automatic. Not physical. Energy only. A device of some sort. May be dangerous. Let me send. I cannot turn back. I belong past here. Identify. A picture. Remember KT95. The colored clouds, the music, the games. The blue light blinks out. It is gone. A watchdog? But who put it on duty? Now this is familiar. A flash of my original home. KT95, I called it. but that is not his real name, only a memory. Move past without a backward look. So there's just some sort of, he calls it a device, some sort of automatic AI type watchdog that confronted his consciousness as he's, cruising through this, what he calls the interstate, this pathway, basically. Like, we get the impression that there's a white hole that's like the, what they call the emitter. It's the projector beam, and it goes in a big circle and comes back around to a black hole, what they call the aperture. And that along this is the interstate. It's like a road with all of these planets and dimensions and things along it, and that we sort of progress through it. It's like that's the pathway of our ascension. It's like going, K through 12 in school, and he's going along this interstate, and he's going backwards. And there's some sort of a automatic device. He calls it a device that it doesn't have a mind. It's automatic. It's not physical. It's only energy, and it's there, and it tells him turn back. That is a command. Turn back. You know, and he's like, okay, who put that here and why? What's it telling me? There's something trying to prevent consciousnesses from returning. I think that's very interesting. But Robert Monroe's like, fuck it, I'm going. Okay. So then he's getting into KT95, which is his original home, the first time his consciousness was ever physical. Um, okay. Flashes of light far off on either side. Am I going too far? Blackness ahead. Should I stop and consider? This may be pointless. More lights. One straight ahead. Careful. Slow down. Well, so you have come to join me. I did not have to come back to meet you. This radiation is unmistakable. It is Mirinon. Mirinon. How many times did he visit us with his serenity and his clarity via OBEs in this lifetime? Mirinon, are you still on your 49th level? I am, but I am ready to move. You come at the right moment. So Mirinon is a higher intelligence that when they were doing the Monroe Institute Explorer group, that's where like Tom Campbell and so many of the other elite level explorers would go in the special booth. When I was at the Monroe Institute, they took us on a tour there. It's not open to the public, and it's so cool. And this is where they did all their wild, far out, documented all this. Is they recorded everything. They had all this equipment. They monitored everything. It was very scientific, and they went on these wild, far out experiences out in these other dimensions, and they were mapping out all the dimensions, and they encountered so many different intelligences, and some of the intelligences were very friendly and helpful. It would guide them and tell them things, and sometimes they would even like channel through their bodies, kind of take over their bodies and talk through their mouths, with the explorer's permission, of course. And Mirinon was one of these people, and it's really interesting. So now he's encountering Mirinon out on his journey. When I was at the Monroe Institute, the lake that's there, they have a beautiful lake on this is like 500 acres on this beautiful mountain in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and the lake is called Lake Mirinon. Anywho, Robert says, I was not intentionally trying to find you. Mirinon says, I know. I perceive what you are doing. You have learned much. Yes, I have. And I understand now your purpose in returning. The task of gathering in your parts, as you called them. It is not easy, is it? Mirinon says, that is true. As with you, others are performing that function, other parts of me. Now you too are searching. Robert, but I do not know what I am searching for. Is what I seek the same as your goal? We are gathering together the parts of us up and down in time, from belief system to belief system. We cannot leave until we gather all in. Mirinon, that is so. Well then, my friend, what do we do when we have completed our task? That is what keeps me moving onward into higher levels. I think I see the end, but then I see greater vistas beyond. Robert, perhaps we should search together. No, my friend, we move at different rates. I cannot change, nor can you, and I perceive you have found the way, and I have yet to find mine. I don't understand. Found the way? The way to obtain your answer. I have? Where? You passed it by and did not consider the opportunity. Passed it by? I missed something again? Where? At the point of your first origin. That is what I am seeking. I have yet to find my original source. I'm sure the answer is there for me. It may be the same for you. My origin? KT95? But I know it very well. There is nothing new there. Not new. Old. No, that is not the term. First. The first and the source. Look at the source. Back to the beginning. I shall try. I wish you well, dear friend. Do not be concerned. We shall meet again. Well, of that I am sure. Go with love. Warm radiance washes through me and fades as the glowing figure moves away. Was the meeting accidental? It came just when needed. when the distance ahead seemed endless, bringing me added strength to give increased impetus. But I must turn back. Let me explore a little further before I do so. What? Blinding energy. I cannot move. A voice in my head, a cold, admonitory voice. I am the Lord thy God, whom you serve. Oh, a feeling of intense pressure, as if I am dissolving. Now I am water, my lungs full of water. I must have air. Get rid of the water. No, it can't be. It isn't so. There is no water. I have no lungs. I am being made to think that there is where I am. It is an influence. I know it is not so. The pressure releases. I can feel fingers of energy probing for the core of me. I can stop this. Close the receptors, close tight. I remember how. You do not remember? You do not remember. But I do. I remember the test, the training experience from my eye there. They were so real. I am ready, ready for this demanding energy. It cannot harm me. But what is this? What God can this be? It cannot harm me or affect me. Be calm, warm, friendly. Do not accept me as your God. Huh. The idea of a God that threatens amuses me. I let this idea flow out. Do not fear me. I release a picture of me blowing apart again and again into millions of fragments and reconstituting after every explosion. You are damned. You are no more than wasted energy of me, who is your Lord. The energy fades to a tiny point and vanishes. Huh. How many more like this may I encounter? A waste of my effort. So there's this, it seems like another automaton, another sort of almost like this AI type of intelligence that pops up to kind of try to scare you into, because he's going places he's not supposed to go. So there's these things that pop up and try to scare you back. Makes you wonder how many people, mystics of the old, would explore astrally and encounter things like this, and how much of our religions and stuff are based on these type experiences that we go and turn into lore and whole things that people live their lives by. And it could just be these little automated, um, kind of guard dogs keeping people from going into restricted areas. That is religion, my friend. Okay. What did Mirinon say? I should go back to KT95. Let me do this. Close phase shift, move in slowly. It looks the same. Just the same. Rainbow clouds. I'll stretch out and rest for a while. Lie in the clouds and listen to the music. Yeah, that's better. The origin. But it's just not the same. Always the same. Just a blind alley. There's nothing more here. Can't phase in anymore. I might as well try something else. When I've rested, what shall I do next? Here it is, the way it always was. Even the curls of energy below. I remember when I was a curl, playing skip as they are now. Wait, skip, roll inward. I remember. But what if? What if? Reverse it, reverse skip. What happens? Careful, careful. It feels much stronger now than it did. The movement, the music is fading, clouds dissolving, the curls are gone. Nothing now, nothing but a spiraling mass of energy moving outward, moving inward bit by bit, like swimming upstream. The spiral becomes tighter, tighter, narrowing, very narrow. The current is stronger, hard to move against, but still moving. Hard, takes too much strength. Ahead of me is the vortex point. A little more, too small, can't get through it. Concentrate energy, skip. A surge deep inside of me, another larger, taking me over, another wave. It hurts, but it is beautiful, and a part of me is left behind. Skip. A larger surge. Hurts terribly all through me, but so beautiful, so exquisitely beautiful. Nothing could be so magnificent as this. I lose another part of what I was. Skip, another surge. Nothing can hurt so deeply. Nothing can be also encompassing. Enjoy. I can't stand much more. Not much of the old me left. Skip, the greatest surge. This is it. This is it. There is nothing greater than what I feel. Nothing so total, total joy, total beauty, total. What? Why did I wake up this way? I need to put my consciousness back together. There. That's more like it. Now what happened? Yes, the dream. Dream. Or did I live it? Was it real? Or someone else's dream? Okay, just to shine some light on what the hell just happened. He's going, they don't tell you this because he doesn't even really know. He's going back in time. Okay. He went back to his starting point where where his consciousness first organized into physical matter. And he went back and he went for that. Okay. He learned there how to do the skip thing where he could skip around the cosmos, and he had figured out that he could skip through time, but he kept skipping and he kept skipping backwards. And then he went through this. He basically, if you imagine like your own personal Big Bang, where your like soul and consciousness comes into existence, he basically went back into that, like diving into his creation of his soul. And that's why he was saying things like, it felt, so amazing and all encompassing. And, he's never felt anything like this kind of an energy. But then all of a sudden, when he gets past it, he's like, what happened? The dream. Like he calls this reality that we're in the dream. So just let you know that's where we're at here. So now everything is in place and operating. The dream is fading quickly. Something about clouds and curls and moving along an interstate and life and death, whatever that means. Something called time space, blue planet, a sun, strange, strong energy, millions of suns, and love. Never forget the feeling of that, even if it was only a dream. A complicated dream. Took so much energy to wake up here in this bright coolness. What a strange place to wake up in. I didn't go to sleep here. How did I fall asleep? I'd better get back to where I belong. The flow. Look at that flow. All moving in the same direction. From all dimensions. Must join in before I fall asleep again. The dream. Parts keep coming back. He's having memories of, physical life. Must stay moving with the others. But they are all so much larger than I am. I'm just a speck, so small. You are indeed, little one. Stay with me, I will help you. The one next to me. Yes, so big I cannot see it all. A strong surge of energy coming down to me. Good. Does that help? My consciousness is filling out more, remembering how it happened. Yes, was part of the whole. One by one, parts were placed here and there, taken from the whole and placed, but where? Can't see it clearly. Excitement, joy at a new adventure. One by one, those around me were placed. Then it was my moment. The wrenching, the uncertainty. Then the whole was gone. What terrible loneliness, alone. Need to get back to the whole. Consciousness falling apart. Fall asleep. Sleep? What is sleep? Losing consciousness, falling apart. That was it. Now I am moving back to the whole, where I belong. I can feel the beginning of the radiation, becoming more intense as we move. What joy to return. What gifts do you bring, little one? I perceive none. Gifts? Gifts? I have only the need to return to the whole where I belong. Were there others like me? I am what I have always been. Gifts? That means more than I am or was. There is nothing more, only the dream. There is something different with you. You bring no gifts and you are alone. You are incomplete. Incomplete? How can that be? I am the same as when I left the whole. I will be complete when I return. I do not understand. All I need do is return. You do understand, but you have covered it over. We have reached under the covering. Let us help you remember how it began. So he's he's back to like kind of where source is, where they call it the absolute. But they like won't let him in essentially because he doesn't have his gifts and he's too small. So he's starting to figure out like, okay, like what are they talking about? What are these gifts and why am I small? This doesn't make any sense. I just want to go back home. Like there's home on the other side of that. That's home. That's source. I want to go back there. What? Not the dream, but connected to it. Before the dream began. It was good, but the whole needed more. And the whole is, yes, that is when it happened. The whole distributing parts to grow, to reproduce, to add to the whole. Is that it? Then the gifts would be more of me. It has to do with the dream, something in it, or the entire dream must open my memory of the point when I was not conscious here. Careful, don't want to splinter my consciousness again. That cannot happen. It will be a blending of what you are now with the awareness of what you call the dream. It is the total of that experience which is your gift. You will understand why you are incomplete, why you are small. Observe. The memory of the dream opens up in the awakening. But now I am the observer, trying to move upstream. Before, a flash of light energy as I was inserted into the play of KT95. They're taking him on this journey, showing him when he started, like kind of reversing. So he's, the dream, he calls it, this reality, opens up, he's the observer now, so he can just watch it. Flash of light energy, and he's inserted into KT95. It's the very first place he was. And he talks about it in earlier books when he's in KT95 because he wants to go home because he knows that's his home. And he's so excited to go home. He's like, I'm going to get this hero's welcome. It's going to be so awesome. Then he realizes when he goes home, it's a very simple planet and it's all automated. Like the clouds go in like a loop. The music plays in a loop. Everything's in a loop. And all the intelligences there are very simple. They're like very childlike and infantile. But now he has like this like layered human experience. So when he goes back, he's like, they're going to love me. They're going to revere me as a god. This is going to be amazing. And have all this nostalgia. And he goes back and he sees this planet, this existence that's so simple and basic that he's depressed. He's like, I can't believe I ever thought this was amazing. Well, at the time when he was in KT95, he was a new soul, new consciousness. So all that was amazing. Like imagine you being a child in kindergarten. All the things in your kindergarten, play school, whatever are fun and amazing. But go back there when you're an adult and you're like, oh, I can't believe I used to put little blocks together and I used to put a little triangle block in a little triangle hole and a square hole. And I get all excited. Well, at the time when you're young, that's amazing. So when he was a new soul in KT95 was amazing. When he went back, it was depressing. So now he's going back through this journey of his existence. Okay. The memory of the dream opens up and the awakening. But now I'm the observer, trying to move upstream before a flash of light energy as I was inserted into the play of KT95. The boredom, the curiosity, departure, a lonely migration, seeking, bright suns of energy in endless array, joining others like me in the search. A search for what? It is inexpressible. Then the radiation of a blue planet satellite of a yellow sun, entry, to become what? Human. Yes, human. It is very real even as I observe it, moving into a physical being composed of distorted energy, physical matter, energy locked into limited expression, the heavy feeling of that limitation, yet the inborn drive to maintain energy in the physical matter and keep it operating. A very wonderful yet contradictory design. Next comes the need to search being converted into acts and reactions in another modality, not succeeding in this maintenance and trying again and again. So many passages in and out, from the first small creature with the furry face, the rise and fall of awareness and intellect again and again through millennia of passages, lifetimes. The sum of all these are the gifts brought back to the whole, but I do not have them with me. Now I see the reason for the distribution of parts. What gifts I have from the dream. And I am. I am all of those life passages, all of them. What did I call the total? The I there of me? But I am only part of that. That is why you are small and incomplete. There is more. Yes, and others who are waiting, clusters of other I theirs. We go as a unit. Yes. So in the dream, I was an advanced agent, a scout. When all have been assembled, you will come with your gifts. You will no longer be small, but much as we are. All of the others will come with you. Was your process the same? Did one part of you come here first? With us, it was different. You act as you do because your diversification is so wide. On our planet, our entire species became aware and made the shift as one. Why? Why are we stopping? The aperture is just ahead. It will open soon. Beside it, you can perceive the emitter for the energy beam that creates what you call the dream. The dream. The hologram would have been a better term. The energy is very strong, a flaming ball of energy. There is a function I have to perform. The emitter reminds me I need to do this. We understand, friend. Go. So, real quick, he says, he always calls this reality the dream. And then he says, the hologram would have been a better term. And that's the first time you ever hear him say that. But this all goes into the holographic reality theory that, Michael Talbot wrote the whole book, The Holographic Universe. And it's a really, really neat book. But it's really interesting that he's in this part of reality. And when he sees the emitter in the aperture, he thinks hologram. This is holographic. And there's a lot of data that suggests that, this is more or less a very, very convincing and realistic hologram that we're in. So he was asking his friend that's helping him on this, you know, did you go on the same thing? Because, like, so Robert Monroe is figuring out that he's a scout. He's this advanced agent that his I there cluster sent out and said, okay, you are good at this stuff. You're our best chance. We're going to put all of our eggs in this basket and send you out into the great unknown so that you can figure out where we go from here. Like, they're basically like, as an I there cluster, which is your higher self, the totality of all of your lifetimes and all the data that is you. They're basically like, we can't learn anything else here. We've done everything. We've been every type of person. We've fixed our karma. We've collected all of our bits, all of our pieces of our own self that are stuck in all these belief systems and are lost out there. We've collected everything. We've become whole. We've learned everything, but now we don't know where to go. There doesn't seem to be this automatic like job placement program. Like, hey, you did it, ding, you graduate, here you go. You figure out where you go. And so they sent him out as a scout to figure out where they go. So Robert's doing that. That's what this run on the interstate is. And this person, this guide, this, it's not a person, but whatever this energy is, this consciousness has taken him on this journey that's kind of guiding him through all this. He's asking him, is this what happened with you? Did one part of you come here first, find the way, and then go back and tell the others? Because that's kind of what Robert's doing for his eye there. And he says, The intelligence says that on our planet, our entire species became aware and made the shift as one. So they had this like collective awakening and basically all clicked out together. So that's really neat. So then they begin to slow down. Robert says, "Why are we stopping?" And he says, or the intelligence says, "The aperture is just ahead. It will open soon. Beside it, you can perceive the emitter for the energy beam that creates what you call the dream. The emitter beam for what you call the dream." And this is when he says the hologram would be a better term. The emitter beam. I mean, they're painting a picture where they're literally at the source projection, the emitter beam, almost as if it's like this laser. So if this is a hologram, holograms are created by lasers hitting a holographic plate. And I really think that plasma is the holographic plate. Plasma is the structure, it's the lattice to create this physical matter reality, but nothing's actually physical. But when the emitter, which I believe is neutrinos, I have a whole thing I'm going to spill on y'all one day that's all about neutrino science and plasma science. And the neutrinos are the non physical element, plasma being the physical element. And those two together are what create our physical matter reality. They're basically saying that at source, God, source, the ultimate beginning of everything, is a light. It's a light, it's an emitter beam. And it creates, excuse me, it creates what's called the hologram. The hologram is the dream. And according to Robert Monroe, the dream is what we call reality, universe. So you're starting to put some of the the big pieces together here. Okay. So Robert says that there's a function I need to perform. He says we understand. Okay. So there they come. Two figures, one glowing more than the other. I move closer to the emitter, very close. I shield them from the energy of the emitter, opening my receptors to help in the shielding, and I remember the two parts of me. They're in the dream. And I feel the full effects of the radiation, but now I can absorb it where they could not. I bathe in the radiation, feeling, absorbing. How much more? How much? Yes, now I know what I am, what I have been from the beginning, what I will always be, a part of the whole, the restless part that desires to return, yet lives to seek expression in doing, creating, building, giving, growing, leaving more than it takes, and above all desires to bring back gifts of love to the whole. The paradox of total unity and the continuity of the part. I know the whole, I am the whole. Even as a part, I am the totality. The parts of me from the dream retreat, and I move back, remembering the dream well and what I must do. You have grown somewhat, little one. There is something. I remember something I have to do for us. What happens when we enter and rejoin the whole? There is much speculation about that. We can give you a rote describing one probable result. It will be interesting to you when you return to the dream, to the hologram. When I return, I have to go back to the dream to lose consciousness again? So he considers right now he's existing like his body. You got to remember his body's at home in bed, right? Or he's at the institute. And so his physical body's at home or wherever, and his mind, his consciousness is out doing this. So it's just funny because like he considers going back to his body and back to waking physical life as losing consciousness. You know what I mean? And it's so crazy because we would consider what he's doing as losing consciousness. We would see his physical body laying there asleep and say, oh, obviously he's unconscious, right? But like Robert Monroe out there is looking back at returning to this life, going, oh, I have to lose consciousness and go back there. It's all about perspective, man. So he's also having this realization that the gifts that they tell him that he has to return to the whole and bring his gifts, that the gifts are when he left as a little bitty light, right? When he first left source on this journey, he was small. And then as you go through your experience, you get bigger. And you get bigger because you're accumulating gifts. And these gifts, according to this higher intelligence and according to what source, what they're inferring from this, is that the gifts that you bring back are experience, knowledge, and love. That just through having earth life experience and different human or non-human experiences, just different experiences. It doesn't really matter what form you're in. The human avatar is just a vehicle for consciousness. It's a VR headset for consciousness to put on, come in this physical world and have these physical experiences. But when you zoom out of all this and you realize that there's so much more, that you were a life form before human, you'll be a life form after human, and that all of these are just kind of different characters you're playing, all for the sake of accumulating gifts, and the gifts being experience, wisdom, and love. And that's the ultimate reason. And that earth is such a important school because it teaches us love through duality, because you have to know hate before you can understand love. So he's realizing all these things. So then he says, the intelligence says, it'll be interesting to you when you return to the dream, to the hologram. When I return, I have to go back to the dream to lose consciousness again? You have no choice. You are incomplete. But this consciousness will return with you. You would not abandon those who are waiting, even if it were possible. That is so. Take this rote. A rote is like a download of information. Take this rote. It may help you to be patient, you and the some of you. I am sure it will, but we need so much to know what it is to become complete. Can you say? We do know this will. It can be said in your words. Here's like a little poetic kind of a passage that this intelligence is telling him about what it is to become complete, to understand the purpose of all this. There is no beginning. There is no end. There is only change. There is no teacher. There is no student. There is only remembering. There is no good. There is no evil. There is only expression. There is no union. There is no sharing. There is only one. There is no joy. There is no sadness. There is only love. There is no greater. There is no lesser. There is only balance. There is no stasis. There is no entropy. There is only motion. There is no wakefulness. There is no sleep. There is only being. There is no limit. There is no chance. There is only a plan. This is as we know it to be. Thank you. I accept this. You need to move through the other half of the circle to complete your journey. The other half of the circle? It is much easier. Goodbye, little one. So he went backwards first. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like he's like an explorer just setting out on this journey with no map. He doesn't know where he's going or what he's doing. He's figuring it out. So they even tell him you need to go on the other half of the circle. So he went from where he was, imagine a circle from beginning to end, and he's somewhere in the middle. Like his Earth life experience is somewhere in the middle. And he went backwards. He went to his previous life as like a dolphin thing on some water planet, and then he went to KT-95. Then he went back to, where he was trying to go to source. And they're basically like, what are you doing here? Like, you don't have anything. You're brand new, because he went back in time. So now they're telling him to go on the other half of the circle. And the other half of the circle is more is easier because you're going with the flow as opposed to going against the flow. That's the impression I get. Driven by a glorious need to effect completion, I begin the return. The flow stops behind me, waiting to enter. Just the flicker of a thought of entering brings great anticipation. Back to the dream. Go back to the dream. How did I get here? What did I do? Memory begins to filter in, moving upstream against the energy, using the skip technique of the curl children. How do I start it? Yes, downstream should be easy. Use the regular skip I knew so well as a child in the dream. Skip, skip, and instantly back through the narrow slit. A blur of curls playing. Stop just outside the rainbow clouds. How far away it was when I lay there, starting to speculate. Now the flood of memory returns. The I hear of me. The rest is easy, just phase shifting. Back up the interstate. Once so hard, now so easy. A blur of images and vibrations. I have the final rote. A wave of laughter and relief. The fellow traveler understood me. He knew how impatient I was. There is still fun, and yet I know the ultimate, unbelievable, yet it happened. A strange, bright knowing, being in the dream, knowing what it is and having the emotions of the dream, yet I am still awake, pulsating with what I am beyond the dream. Can there be any way to express that wave form in the dream without disturbing the illusion? Or is the design exactly that, to disturb the dream? He's basically asking himself, is like when he returns back to his life, will he be able to function like knowing these things, or will it disturb the illusion? Or is that the entire point of this, to disturb the dream? So I have to make one more run to the other end of the circle. I know what it is, to move the other way on the interstate. Not out, but in. I use my quick switch phasing and the skip, both of them, and I move swiftly in. Past the eye there clusters, they are gone. Past the blue system territories, they wink out. Past the blue planet and watch as it reverts to a ring of dust. Everything moves, going against the flow, flowing back to where it began. A huge flower of particles and light folding back together, back into a beam. A beam. Get into it. Move with it. Can I stand it? It is so strong. And there it is, the emitter. There was no Big Bang. It came from the emitter, the creation of the hologram. And there it is. The return flow off to one side, a cycle, a closed loop, a circle. Now I know. Now I know. I had better get back to the I there of me. Let them know. Easy and quick. Quick switch and skip. Ram, is that you? It is. Your scout is back. Control your radiation. You're burning us out. Oh, sorry. Is that better? Ah. When you broke the uplink, we did not know if you would come back, but you have. Now we can act. But first, you had better. I have it. I have what you need. Stop and listen, will you? What is it? You must move back in your physical body now. Why? Is something wrong? We have been trying to send a thought to you. When your uplink broke, it also cut you off from your physical body. If you do not move back quickly, you may lose it, and it is not time yet. Well, if they were concerned, so was I. They gave me a surge of energy as I began a rapid shift back to the physical phase. The body was shocked, and I was shocked. It was so cold, the blood pressure very low, the pulse rate slow, the heart near fibrillation. As I started breathing again, deeply, the body began slowly to warm up, to move back to normal, but the muscles were stiff. It would take several days to get them back in reasonable operation. Okay, real quick. Let's go back to that part about the emitter. So he's essentially going in this circle. So he went back to the aperture when he tried to. So the aperture is like the black hole. It's the return. And he went there, and that's when they said, "You don't have any gifts. Like, what are you doing here?" Because he was small, like he had gone back in time. So he had lost all of his gifts. He had lost all the accumulation of knowledge and wisdom and love that he had. And he went back and he made it back to basically source, to God, to the finish line. And they're like, "You can't come in. Like, you don't have any gifts. What are you doing here? You're small." And he's like, "What does that mean?" So then they took him on this journey. They're like, "Here, we'll show you." And they took him through and they showed him, hey, see, as you go through the dream and you layer on experience in life and love and all the different things that you learn, you grow. And as you grow, you get bigger, and you're getting bigger with what they call gifts. And the gifts is just information, knowledge, experience, love, wisdom, all those things. Those are the gifts. So he's like, "Okay." They're like, "Now you have to go the other way around and see the other end," because he was at the aperture. That's like the return. So, and these two things are together, like, it's a circle, right? So a circle, the beginning and the end are the same thing. So, he can see the other side. So when he sees the aperture, he can see the emitter, but he just can't get to it because it's a circle. So it's almost like a circle, imagine almost like a U. It's like, it's a circle, but there's a gap in between, because one is the outflow and one is the inflow. So even though he could see the emitter and he could see the aperture, to get to the other one, he has to go around the circle. Well, around that circle is literally the interstate, the pathway of life. It's the entire purpose. You leave as a tiny little nothing, and then you go out, and as you go along the interstate, you're accumulating all these things and growing and growing. And when you come back, they're like, "Now you may enter because you're big, and you're big because you have gifts, because you did the whole thing." It's like going to school. You go into school in kindergarten, you graduate in grade 12. You can't just, halfway through say, "I'm done." You drop out, but you don't get to graduate, right? So in this case, to graduate, you have to finish the circle, and then at the end, you get to go back to source. And that's what he's saying. But so then they told him to go on the other half of the circle. So then he went all the way back around to the other side, and then he gets to the emitter. So he had seen the emitter when he was at the aperture, like he saw it, and he even said there's a projector beam, but he was seeing it from the other side. Now he's going into it, like he's going all up in it, right? So he's seeing it from a totally different perspective. He's seeing it from, like, he's literally going into the emitter as opposed to just seeing it off in the distance. So that's when he says, going against the flow again, back to where it began, a huge flower of particles and light folding back together, back into a beam. A beam, he repeats. Get into it, move with it. Can I stand it? It is so strong. And there it is, the emitter. No, there was no Big Bang. It came from the emitter, the creation of the hologram. And there it is, the return flow off to one side, a cycle, a closed loop, a circle. Now I know. Now I know. I mean, that paragraph is so powerful, because he's having this realization, and he's saying there was no Big Bang the way they explain it. The Big Bang is the emitter. Like, so just imagine like you have a movie projector, right? And you have a wall. Well, that wall's blank, it's dark, there's nothing on it. And the movie projector's dark. Well, then you turn it on and you hit play, and all of a sudden there's a projector beam. Now, that projector beam is just a light, a flow of light particles. Okay. It doesn't really do anything. Like if you just look at a projector beam, you can't tell what it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have any meaning. It doesn't make any sense. But then you project it onto something. You have a canvas. Now all of a sudden it comes to life. It's literally just tiny snapshots that are played in progression, and it creates a movie, but it makes sense at that point. So he's saying there's no big bang. All it was the emitter turned on. The emitter is this laser beam which creates the hologram, and he's going in it. And then he sees on the other side of it the outflow. So he sees that it goes out this way and it returns back. And now he gets it. He understands. He understands what the gifts are. He understands what the point is. He understands where the beginning is and where the end is. So now all of a sudden he understands all of these things and he's seeing them. And when one of his parts of his eye there comes and grabs him and is like, Ram, because his name's Robert A. Monroe. So they call him Ram. And they're like, is that you? And he's like, yeah, your scout is back. And they say, control your radiation. You're burning us out. Which means at this point, he's so big and so radiant, because he talks often about the consciousnesses are brighter and bigger with the more evolved essentially they are. So then they tell him that when he broke the uplink, that his body started dying. So that, in the mystical world, they talk about there's this thing called a silver cord, and it's this tether. It's how, like, you can be having a dream, and you could be somewhere far away doing crazy stuff in your dream, and then somebody wakes you up in real life and you pop right back in your body. You don't get lost. You don't get lost in your dreams. You have this silver cord that connects your astral body to your physical body. They're basically saying that he broke this. They call it the uplink, and he broke this, and that his physical body started dying. So they had to go and find him and bring him back. So that's where we're at now. They say, if you do not move back quickly, you may lose it. He says, if they were concerned, so was I. They gave me a surge of energy, and I began a rapid shift back to the physical. The body was shocked, and I was shocked. It was so cold, the blood pressure very low, pulse rate slow, heart near fibrillation. As I started breathing again deeply, the body began slowly to warm up, to move back to normal, but the muscles were stiff. It would take several days to get them back in reasonable operation. It indeed did take several days. The physical body eventually returned to reasonable operation. The essence of me, however, did not. There was not simply a different overview, but a remembering of unlimited freedom, an ever so slight glimpse of an ultimate option. And I knew that I had the missing basic. At least I now have tears I can shed, and cheeks down which they can roll, and a loving hand to brush them away. As for the gifts, when the time is right, I can take them with me. It may become harder and harder to stay here. The wanderer cannot wait forever. And yet I look around me, at the magnificent design, at the wonderfully engineered reduction of ideas into practical application, at how living mechanisms modify to changes in ambience. I look at the leaf of a tree, flexible enough to withstand changes in wind pressure, ribbed on the underside so that it always returns upward facing, performing the function of a transducer. I look at the kitten explorer, who learns more in a week than the rest of her lifetime, who learns how to use her built-in calculator that measures the distance from floor to table and triggers the exact amount of energy that enables her to leap 5 times her height and land safely on the table. My awareness reaches out to the land, air, and sea, which act in profound symbiosis to provide everything that is needed for millions, no, billions of life forms to inhabit this place. Which came first, the need or the idea? And there is the added layer on my brain that gave me the chance to think instead of merely exist, to be what I am. Was that planned in the design, or an experiment to observe the effect? Or was there another reason not yet understood? Chaos, organization, variables, they're all one and the same. Even if it can be replicated eventually, I would still like to meet the original designer just once. So that, my friends, is the end of that chapter. There is another chapter or a couple of chapters after this. This is the conclusion. This book ends very beautifully and sad with the passing of his wife, Nancy, but it is actually the perfect conclusion and culmination to his multiple decades of experience and exploration and consciousness and the afterlife. And it's a very fitting end to this book. But I thought this chapter is really incredible because he had, when he was leaving his body and going on all these explorations, he was at the beginning in the first book, he stays in roughly the Earth realm. He goes to locale 1, locale 2, and locale 3, but all of them are very earthy. You get the impression locale 2 is like the dream world, and locale 3 is essentially alternate realities of Earth, which is super fascinating. But it's all very earthbound. And then in book 2, he goes further. He goes more into the exploration of other dimensions and time. Book 3, he starts getting information from his eye there, that they're like, okay, you're ready now. You've been training. You're really good. You're ready. We need you to do this run on the interstate. This run on the interstate is one of the most important things, because he's supposed to be finding where human consciousness goes next. So as a collective, where we go, but he decides to go way further than that. And he goes back to the aperture and the emitter. The emitter being the laser beam of the hologram source, consciousness altogether, and then the aperture, which is the return, how you return to source, how you graduate, how you go back to your ultimate home. And he comes back with all of that knowledge, and that was not really his intended mission. But I mean, come on, it doesn't get any better than that. And then he goes further, like in the next couple chapters, he takes that even further. But this one I thought was really interesting. So let me know what you guys think of all of this. It ties into the holographic universe theory that at the beginning there was light, and that this light, you got to think about it, a hologram, like a holographic laser, the image that is portrayed by the hologram, so that holographic image. Okay, so you have a light source, the laser beam. That laser beam hits a holographic plate, and it projects a holographic image. So that light is the source, because without that light, the holographic plate doesn't do anything. That light hits the plate and projects a holographic image. So if that light is conscious, the original light, the source light, what he calls the emitter, if that's pure consciousness, if that is God, then that means that everything that's projected out of that holographic plate will be constituted of that original source light, which in this case is consciousness. So when people say everything is conscious, everything is consciousness, the entire universe is consciousness, and people are like, how can that be? How can my coffee mug here be consciousness? Well, actually, this one says conscious observers. So it is in fact conscious. But no, how could a coffee mug be conscious? People say, oh, how could a rock be conscious? It doesn't think. How could it be conscious? Well, if every single thing is constituted of conscious light, if this is a holographic universe, if this is a dream, like Robert Monroe says, and it's a hologram, and every single thing in it is constituted of conscious light, and we're all just incredibly complex holograms, and we are all made of this same source holographic light, and so is this book, and so is this coffee mug. They're all made of the same light. Well, if that light is conscious, or consciousness, source consciousness, then everything that it makes would be conscious as well, because it's all made of light. Holograms are made of light. So I think that's really fascinating that he's talking about the original source. When he goes back to source, it's not this godly figure that we've personified. It's not this fat man with a beard floating around on a cloud. That's just how humans personify things that we can't, conceptualize. More than likely, it's going to be a laser beam, a projector of conscious light that then creates these holographic images by bouncing off of plasma, which is the lattice work of our 3D substrate that creates the physicality of this world. So that's how everything can be conscious, because everything is made of conscious light, because we're all holograms. Let me know your thoughts on all that. Let me know your thoughts on this chapter. Let me know your thoughts on the book report. Let me know your thoughts on life. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Love you guys. Please like, share, subscribe, drop a comment below. I do read them all. I love hearing all your guys' thoughts. This has been a lot of fun. I want to know what you guys think about it. Have a beautiful day. Peace.